In the dark realm of organized crime during the early 20th century, certain names loom large like ominous shadows, legends of true crime who steered entire infamous syndicates and shaped the fate of crime families in Chicago, New York, Las Vegas, and beyond. Four notorious kingpins stand out in the dark history of American underworld secrets: Sam Giancana, Meyer Lansky, Tony Spilotro, and Carlo Gambino. Each of these figures possessed cunning, influence, and a willingness to commit extreme violence in order to maintain control over various criminal enterprises, from bootlegging and illegal gambling to unsolved mysteries surrounding contract hits and conspiracies. Their entwined stories highlight an era of widespread corruption, alliances forged in blood, and the constant push and pull between crime lords vying for dominance. The emergence of Sicilian immigrants and the birth of Sam Giancana. At the turn of the 20th century, a massive wave of Italian immigrants, mostly from southern Italy, arrived on American shores. Among the seas of newcomers were those who carried not only hopes for opportunity and prosperity, but also the traditions or curses of criminal elements from the old country. In the city of Chicago, one such family was that of Antonio Giancana and his wife, Antonia De Simona, from Castelvetrano in Sicily. Their experiences were embedded in the hardships of rural life, the devastation of local agriculture, and the unstoppable dream of finding a better future in the United States. From this family's struggle came Sam Giancana, born on May 24, 1908, in a gritty neighborhood called DePatch, or variations of that name depending on local recollections. Sam's early childhood was marred by tragedy. His mother died in 1910, leaving him in the harsh hands of his father, who later remarried a woman named Mary Leonardi. Life for Sam was notoriously abusive. When he dared misbehave, he was whipped with a razor strop, and the overall lack of maternal warmth only served to fuel his rebellious nature. Surrounded by 7 siblings and raised in a tough area, Sam found little softness in his day-to-day existence. It became almost inevitable that he'd end up running with street gangs. Italian Americans in Chicago existed in a complex mixture of community unity and deep-seated prejudice from the wider society. Many lived in enclaves and formed supportive networks, but a significant number also got swept into the real Mafia stories intricately woven into the city's underbelly. During the early 1900s, the Chicago outfit was beginning to gain shape, emerging from street-level extortion known as the Black Hand and fueled by corner gangs. The outfit's earliest recognized founder, Big Jim Colosimo, was eventually betrayed by his own nephew, Giovanni "Johnny" Torrio, with the help of an ambitious young man named Al Capone. Within that tumultuous, violence-strewn environment, Sam Giancana was expelled from elementary school by the tender age of 10. Reform school proved a place of criminal lessons, not juvenile rehabilitation. By the time he was a teenager, he had joined the 42 Gang, a fearsome group of youths known for burglaries, robbery, hijacking, and homicide. Operating during the Prohibition era, they proved indispensable for established mobsters, including Capone, by providing stolen cars and other resources critical for bootlegging operations. Through these activities, young Sam learned underworld secrets firsthand, aligning himself with future pillars of organized crime. Political corruption was omnipresent. A local boss named Joseph "Diamond Joe" Esposito used the 42 Gang for various strong-arm operations, ensuring that their early crimes were protected. By 1925, Sam had his first major brush with the law for auto theft, only to be released almost immediately. Suspicions arose that he played a key role in Esposito's murder, which took place on March 21, 1928, outside the politician's home. Though never indicted, Sam gained a reputation for ruthlessness and cunning, a man capable of eliminating obstacles while dancing around legal retribution. Some believed that, by removing Esposito, Sam earned favor with the Chicago outfit, which by then had come under the rule of Frank Nitti, Paul Ricca, and Tony Accardo. Giancana's time in reformatories and encounters with the law only solidified his criminal path. Arrested again in 1929 for theft, he served nearly 4 years before his release in 1932. After that, he became an official member of the Chicago outfit, ascending from his prior rank in the 42 Gang. His marriage to Angeline de Tolve brought him 3 daughters, but domestic life didn't curb his appetite for crime. Another 4-year prison stint for bootlegging in 1939 wasn't enough to deter him from returning to the shadows of true crime. Once out in 1942, Sam pitched a lucrative idea to Tony Accardo and Paul Ricca, the takeover of the African-American numbers rackets on the city's south side. This illegal lottery system pulled in a constant flow of cash from black neighborhoods, and the outfit wanted it. Yet local operators didn't cede control easily. Eddie Jones, a key figure in the numbers rackets, fled to Mexico after facing intimidation. Theodore "Teddy" Rowe refused to buckle, which led to escalating violence that culminated in Rowe's murder by masked shooters in August 1952. This brutal act demonstrated Sam's unwavering capacity for lethal revenge, especially after Rowe had earlier killed Leonard "Fat Lenny" Cayano, one of Sam's most trusted confidants from 42 gang days. The message to other resisting parties was clear. The Chicago outfit would not be denied. No one could stand in Sam Giancana's path. His wife Angeline died on April 23, 1954, leaving Sam a widower. He found solace in a series of affairs, including rumored relationships with Phyllis McGuire, Judith Campbell Exner, and possibly even Marilyn Monroe. By 1957, Tony Accardo chose to pass the official leadership of the outfit to Giancana. Though Accardo and Ricca still operated from the shadows, Giancana took center stage. He boasted about having numerous police chiefs on his payroll, proclaiming Chicago the safest place in the world, for those, of course, who were part of his criminal circle. The alleged Kennedy connection and the CIA plot against Castro. Sam Giancana's name grew even larger when rumors swirled that he helped swing the 1960 presidential election in favor of John F. Kennedy. Some variation of the story claimed that Joseph Kennedy, the ex-ambassador and patriarch of the powerful Kennedy clan, approached Sam to ensure Illinois votes in exchange for political protection once JFK took office. Infamous allegations included stuffing ballot boxes and persuading local sheriffs in West Virginia's primary. Though unsubstantiated, these claims became part of notorious kingpins lore, linking Sam Giancana to the heights of political power. But Sam's ties to the Kennedys became precarious once the new administration unleashed Robert Kennedy as Attorney General, who launched a fierce crackdown on organized crime. Feeling betrayed, Giancana turned decidedly hostile. Meanwhile, the CIA, scrambling to remove Fidel Castro from power in Cuba, devised a bizarre plan to enlist Mafia assistance. Giancana and his cohort, John Roselli, allegedly collaborated with the agency's representative, Robert Maheu, in exchange for potential restoration of the Mafia's expropriated gambling empire in Havana. Sam famously refused the $50,000 payment, stating he'd do it for free if it meant re-establishing the outfit's former foothold in Cuba. Though the plot ultimately failed, these real Mafia stories remained among the strangest episodes in Cold War espionage. Further controversies linked Giancana to the tragic death of Marilyn Monroe in 1962. Some conspiracists theorized the actress was silenced to protect high-level secrets about her affairs with both John and Robert Kennedy, as well as her rumored entanglement with Giancana. With JFK's assassination in November 1963, yet another swirl of unsolved mysteries emerged. Did Sam orchestrate the assassination out of revenge for unkept promises, or was it an unrelated act by Lee Harvey Oswald? Jack Ruby's Mafia connections only fueled speculation. The Warren Commission concluded Oswald acted alone, but rumors of a second shooter remained part of dark history. By 1965, Giancana's refusal to cooperate with a grand jury, even under a grant of immunity, led to a prison sentence for contempt. This gave Accardo and Ricca the perfect opportunity to dethrone him, elevating others in the chain of command. Upon his release, Sam fled to Cuernavaca, Mexico for nearly a decade, living in relative comfort and dabbling in a variety of gaming interests. Eventually, the Mexican government deported him in July 1974. Forced back to Chicago, Giancana was subpoenaed by the Senate Intelligence Committee to testify about the CIA's Castro plots. On June 19, 1975, shortly before his scheduled hearing, he was gunned down in the basement kitchen of his Oak Park home while frying sausages. The kingpin, fame for controlling Chicago with near absolute impunity, fell victim to yet another unsolved mystery. No one was ever charged with his murder. Meyer Lansky, the calculator of crime, often called the brain or financial wizard of the American Mafia, Meyer Lansky was born around 1902 in Grodno, then part of the Russian Empire, now in Belarus. He arrived in the United States with his Jewish family around 1911, escaping oppression. Initially settling in Brooklyn, Lansky pieced together a life amid the crowded corridors of the Lower East Side, learning survival skills on streets teeming with Irish, Italian, and Jewish immigrants. Tales suggest his fascination with gambling began when he risked his family's last few coins on illegal corner games, losing at first but eventually studying the angles of true crime gambling rackets to outwit the hustlers. An early confrontation with Salvatore Lucania, later known as Charles Lucky Luciano, proved pivotal. Though from different ethnic backgrounds, both recognized a shared rebellious grit. Lansky's natural gift for numbers soon attracted the attention of underworld secrets mentors like Arnold Rothstein, known as the Brain. Under Rothstein's tutelage, Lansky and friend Benjamin Bugsy Siegel honed their smuggling and gambling skills during Prohibition. They stuck to top-shelf liquor, building reputations as savvy, low-profile operators. Rothstein's murder in 1928 left Lansky determined to become the next high-level thinker in the Mafia. Lansky's approach contrasted sharply with many of his gangster contemporaries. While Siegel flaunted wealth and Luciano loved his flashy suits, Lansky cultivated an understated persona, quiet, polite, and methodical, carefully reinvesting illegal profits into more stable gambling ventures. As Prohibition ended, he shifted operations to new horizons, racetracks, casinos, and illicit lotteries across Florida, Saratoga, and eventually Cuba. By the 1930s, Lansky's circle extended to Frank Costello, among other influential crime families. Rumors persist that Lansky, alongside Luciano, manipulated events leading to the downfall of top mafia bosses like Joe Masseria and Salvatore Maranzano, thus paving the way for the Commission, a mafia board of directors controlling the infamous syndicates. Always seeking new territory for underworld secrets, Lansky opened gambling establishments in Florida during the post-Prohibition wave. He made deals with local authorities, taking advantage of their openness to profitable ventures. Over time, his gambling empire grew more sophisticated, enticing high rollers with an image of fairness and luxury. If you bet at a Lansky-run casino, you might lose your shirt, but not because the dice were rigged. His brand was honest gambling by underworld standards. This approach helped him earn the loyalty and trust of gamblers nationwide. During World War II, the U.S. government discreetly turned to the mob to keep the New York docks free of Nazi saboteurs. Lansky and Albert Anastasia, among others, allegedly orchestrated a watchful presence to deter infiltration. Meanwhile, after Lucky Luciano was imprisoned in 1936 for prostitution rackets, Lansky stepped up as the quiet caretaker of investments. He arranged for Bugsy Siegel to test the waters in burgeoning Las Vegas, but also knew Siegel's unpredictability could sabotage carefully laid plans, especially once Siegel sank mafia funds into the lavish Flamingo Hotel. When deadlines approached and money disappeared, higher-ups lost patience. Siegel's murder in 1947 is widely rumored to have been sanctioned by the Commission, though Lansky long denied giving the final nod, claiming he loved Bugsy. Yet the mission to develop gambling hubs in Nevada continued. In the late 1940s and 1950s, Lansky re-emerged in Cuba, forging a relationship with President Fulgencio Batista. Brought in to refurbish the island's scandal-ridden casinos, Lansky demanded fair play for big spenders, an approach that once again boosted the tourist trade. Ties between Batista's government and the Mafia flourished, allowing infamous American crime families to launder illicit cash in a Caribbean paradise. However, Fidel Castro's revolution in 1959 upended those dreams. Castro closed the casinos, nationalized foreign assets, and forced the mob out. Lansky lost huge sums invested in the Riviera Hotel, like gangster-style expropriation at gunpoint, he lamented. As the 1960s advanced, Lansky's name figured into numerous FBI investigations, Under J. Edgar Hoover, the Bureau believed Lansky was the finance mastermind behind nearly every major American mafia operation. Illegal wiretaps and hidden microphones frequently caught references to "that little Jew." But since the recordings were unauthorized, they couldn't be used in court. Lansky remained elusive, though his health deteriorated with heart trouble. Government officials launched tax evasion cases, but their star witnesses were often untrustworthy criminals. Ultimately, Lansky was cleared or saw charges dismissed thanks to top-notch defense work. Seeking respite from near-constant legal scrutiny, Lansky fled to Israel in 1970, invoking the Jewish law of return. Yet the government there, under intense pressure from U.S. authorities and a thunderous media coverage labeling him a gangster, denied him citizenship. Rejected, Lansky tried to slip away to Paraguay, only to find the FBI's net waiting at every stop. Finally returned to Miami, he stood trial for contempt of court and separately for alleged skimming of casino profits. One by one, however, these unsolved mysteries fell apart in the courtroom. Years of incessant legal battles and diminishing health took their toll. Lansky died from lung cancer on January 15, 1983, at age 80. Poor by underworld mythic standards, the FBI never found the rumored $300 million fortune he was supposedly hoarding. Tony Spilotro, Las Vegas's most feared enforcer. Born on May 19, 1938, on Chicago's South Side, Tony Spilotro was the epitome of raw aggression in real mafia stories. Growing up in an Italian neighborhood, Tony lived with 5 siblings in a cramped bedroom above his father Pasquale's restaurant, Patsy's, famous for homemade meatballs. That bustling eatery also served as a clubhouse for big-name outfit notorious kingpins, including Sam Giancana, Jackie Cerrone, Gus Alex, and Frank Nitti. As a kid, Tony idolized these hardened men and did menial tasks for them, fetching coffee, shining shoes, actions that offered him early glimpses of the dark history swirling beneath the city's facade. Small in stature yet fiercely combative, Tony joined a youth gang with his friend Frank Carlotta. They started with petty crimes, vandalism, burglaries, but quickly graduated to armed robberies. By the time Tony was 17, rumors swirled that he'd become the most dangerous kid in the neighborhood. Even his own brother placed bets challenging other teenagers to beat Tony, all of which ended badly for the challengers. Tony's readiness to embrace violence caught the eye of an outfit enforcer named Vincent the Saint Inarello, who introduced Tony to various underworld secrets. Tony set one goal: to become boss of the entire Chicago syndicate. His chance to shine arrived in 1962 when 2 unreliable associates, Billy McCarthy and Jimmy Miraglia, committed a triple homicide in an upscale area called Elmwood Park, an absolute no-no for the outfit. The boss demanded retribution and intelligence on who else was involved. Tony took part in the interrogation and gruesome torture of McCarthy, forcing him to reveal Miraglia's name by pressing his head in a vise. Tony's chilling willingness to do the unspeakable earned him membership in the Chicago outfit and the respect of Sam Giancana's top killers. In due course, Tony was dispatched to Las Vegas to oversee the outfit's secret skim from local casinos. The Midwest mob needed a violent caretaker who would keep owners, employees, and loan sharks in line, ensuring the unrecorded revenue made its way from the casino floors to Chicago. Tony arrived in Sin City with his wife Nancy and young son in 1971, quickly drawing massive attention. Local law enforcement pinned him as a ruthless gangster, placing him under round-the-clock surveillance. Undaunted, Tony built up personal muscle, forming the Hole-in-the-Wall gang, which specialized in drilling through walls and ceilings to loot jewelry stores, homes, and high-roller stashes, always with an appetite for humiliating or eliminating anyone who refused to bend. His longtime friend Frank Carlotta and other Chicago associates joined him in the desert, collecting taxes from loan sharks, pimps, drug dealers, and bookmakers. Those who didn't pay faced savage beatings or worse. Meanwhile, Tony oversaw manipulations like street taxes and unstoppable break-ins. The city's homicide rate skyrocketed, overshadowing the profits the Mafia historically enjoyed. Tony's showy style, which included public brawls and open defiance of the law, began to irritate his bosses in Chicago, especially once the FBI installed a specialized task force to crush the new wave of organized crime that Tony had ignited. At the same time, Tony resented the fame and attention showered on Frank "Lefty" Rosenthal, a brilliant sports handicapper who fought the Nevada Gaming Commission's refusal to grant him a license. Lefty even launched a local TV talk show, swiping headlines right out from under Tony. Envious, Tony unwisely embarked on an affair with Lefty's wife. Federal heat kept intensifying, culminating in a major crackdown during a botched burglary on July 4, 1981, that led to the arrest of Carlotta and key members in the Hole in the Wall gang. Some turned informants implicating Tony, though Tony ceased convictions multiple times. The repeated fiascos, overshadowed by his hot-headed methods, convinced the Chicago bosses that Tony was more trouble than he was worth. In 1986, Tony and his brother Michael were lured back to Illinois under the pretense of a promotion. Instead, a group of outfit heavies attacked them in a basement, beating them to death and dumping their bodies in an Indiana cornfield. This grisly end, found in their underwear, stacked atop each other, remains one of the more somber episodes of dark history, the final moment in Tony Spilotro's real Mafia story. Carlo Gambino, the silent architect of New York's biggest family. Born on August 24, 1902, in Palermo, Sicily, Carlo Gambino would eventually reign as boss of a massive crime family in New York. He emerged from an influential Sicilian clan with many connections to local mafia networks. Upon arriving in the U.S. illegally around 1921, Gambino found immediate opportunities during Prohibition, forging a place among infamous syndicates that dominated the illicit liquor trade. He was related to or allied with other towering figures, and like many Sicilian immigrants of the period, he brought an old-world sense of loyalty and cunning to the new land. By the late 1920s, Gambino served under boss Joe the Boss Masseria, fighting in the so-called Castellamarese War against Salvatore Maranzano. Once Lucky Luciano switched sides, orchestrating Masseria's murder in 1931, Maranzano sought to reorganize the Mafia under 5 families. But that new system didn't last long either, as Maranzano was also killed, reportedly at Luciano's direction. In the aftermath, the commission was established. Gambino, a loyal foot soldier, rose steadily, assigned to the Vincent Mangano family, which later morphed into the Anastasia family after Mangano's mysterious disappearance in 1951. Albert Anastasia, known for commanding the lethal Murder Inc., assumed leadership. Nevertheless, he made many enemies, including Vito Genovese and Gambino himself. In 1957, Anastasia was famously shot to death while sitting in a barber's chair, clearing the path for Gambino to take the helm. This change reshaped New York's underworld. Under Carlo Gambino, the old Mangano-Anastasia outfit was revitalized and renamed the Gambino family. He favored discreet power, rarely appearing in flashy suits or public confrontations. Associates remarked on his short build and unassuming demeanor, an old man quietly controlling thousands of affiliates across varied operations: gambling, loan sharking, construction rackets, trucking, and more. Gambino's cunning was displayed in his rumored role in the campaign to topple Joe Colombo, who had garnered unwanted media attention with his Italian-American Civil Rights League. At a public rally in 1971, Colombo was shot multiple times by Jerome Johnson in front of a crowd. Johnson was promptly gunned down by unknown individuals. Colombo survived but was paralyzed until his death in 1978. No formal evidence tied Gambino to the incident, yet the entire Mafia scene suspected he orchestrated it from the shadows. By the 1960s, with old rivals like Vito Genovese behind bars, possibly framed by Gambino and Lucky Luciano through a drug sting, the Gambino boss emerged as the most influential figure on the commission. Nicknamed the Boss of Bosses, he reigned over a crime family of hundreds. He insisted on limited violence to keep law enforcement scrutiny at bay, emphasizing bribes, political connections, and infiltration into legitimate business. Even so, his black Cadillac, with personalized license plates, hinted that behind his modest facade lay immense wealth. He skillfully dodged repeated deportation attempts by feigning illness or leveraging corrupt officials. Carlo Gambino died naturally of a heart attack on October 15, 1976, while watching a Yankees game at age 74. In an underworld defined by bullets and betrayals, his quiet passing at home was an extraordinary feat. He had manipulated events for decades, helped shape the commission, and assembled an empire that outlived him. Before dying, Gambino designated his brother-in-law Paul Castellano as successor, bypassing loyal underboss Agnello Della Croce. This choice sowed seeds of contention that, in future years, would burst open in internal conflict. Yet Gambino's mastery of underworld secrets sealed his place as an icon among true crime buffs and dark history enthusiasts worldwide. Conclusion. Voices that echo across the underworld across Chicago, Las Vegas, and New York, Sam Giancana, Meyer Lansky, Tony Spilotro, and Carlo Gambino each embodied a distinct trait of organized crime. Giancana rose through savage gang wars to commandeer the Chicago outfit and allegedly engage in clandestine dealings at the highest levels of politics. Lansky, the calculating accountant, parlayed cunning and intellect into controlling illegal gambling enterprises stretching from Florida to Cuba, engaging gamblers with a veneer of fairness while simultaneously forging alliances with fearsome bosses. Tony Spilotro introduced a brazen style of violence in Las Vegas that unsettled even fellow mobsters, ultimately paying for his aggression with his life. Carlo Gambino, by contrast, set an example of paternal calm, using deft cunning to become a boss of bosses, quietly weaving alliances and rarely lifting a gun himself, even as he orchestrated cold-blooded hits from behind the scenes. These notorious kingpins left behind a trail of bloodshed, corruption, and unsolved mysteries. Their raw Mafia stories remain crucial lessons about how ample money and brutality can undermine institutions tasked with protecting communities. The push for absolute control, whether over Chicago's numbers rackets, Havana's casino culture, or the New York waterfront, came at the expense of countless victims sidelined by extortion and intimidation. City streets, from Manhattan's Lower East Side to the dusty outskirts of Las Vegas, witnessed the evolving interplay of alliances that shaped the American underworld secrets of the 20th century. In many ways, their lives formed a single tapestry, a dark history tapestry of alliances, feuds, betrayals, and successes. Their crime families forged networks that spanned entire states, and their legends continue to fascinate historians and true crime aficionados alike. Some died violently, betraying the code of silence or succumbing to the sword they so often wielded. Others passed away peacefully, escaping jail time despite decades of investigations. Whether through bullet holes in the back of a barber's chair or the silent final breath of an elder in his own living room, these men's ends mirror the dual nature of a criminal life. Brutality and cunning, risk and reward, ephemeral power overshadowed by inevitable downfall. Their stories, entwined with rumors of CIA conspiracies, rigged elections, extramarital affairs, and horrifying acts of violence, serve as reminders of a time when infamous syndicates held unconstrained power in American cities. Even decades later, the abiding fascination with these figures reveals our enduring obsession with real Mafia stories. We question how they moved so deftly in circles of influence, forging pacts with politicians, law enforcement, and entire neighborhoods that felt forced to rely on them for protection. Beyond the myths stands the inescapable truth that these men, as infamous as they were, fundamentally reshaped organized crime, a phenomenon that, in their day, overshadowed legitimate authority. This saga is part of what draws us to the underworld, to true crime, to the shadowed corners where notorious kingpins once reigned. We read about them with horrific fascination, marveling at their audacity, yet appalled by their cruelty. We see them shape entire street networks, building fortunes on vices and secrets. We wonder at the possibility of governmental collusion or hidden deals that allowed them to flourish so openly. Above all, we remain captivated by the unsolved mysteries that swirl around every corner of their story. Did Sam Giancana truly fix a presidential election? Did Meyer Lansky stash millions that remain unclaimed? Did Tony Spilotro's brashness doom him from the start? Was Carlo Gambino the ultimate puppet master behind multiple high-level eliminations? What we do know is that the trail of bodies, from shadowy basements in Chicago to foreign beaches in Cuba, testifies to an unvarnished truth. These men were emblematic of power games that turned the law on its head. Each of their reigns underscores the role that money, intimidation, and occasionally cunning alliances with government interests played in sustaining organized crime. Although modern-era crackdowns and RICO statutes have severely weakened such oppressive mobs, their footprints endure in popular culture and cautionary tales still echoing in city streets. And that cinematic swirl continues to inspire books, movies, TV shows, and endless speculation. We retell these events not to glorify them, but to understand how large-scale corruption can arise and flourish. The dynamic interplay of loyalty and betrayal, of codes and backstabbing, fosters some of the most complex dark history narratives in American memory. Countless underworld secrets remain, and investigators, journalists, and aficionados continue to unearth new revelations. Some gained from declassified documents are the confession of a once loyal enforcer. Every so often, new theories or evidence emerges. Files from agencies that once kept hush-hush about their dealings with Mafia men get published, stirring controversies anew. The old wives' tales about hidden fortunes, rumored hits, and sensational affairs feed the public craving for true crime. Perhaps the final lesson each figure leaves behind is that criminal power is never absolute. Sooner or later, a new threat or betrayal emerges, and with it, the unstoppable machinery of retribution that defines the underworld. Sam Giancana discovered this truth in his own kitchen, caught off guard while cooking. Meyer Lansky, longtime money manager par excellence, limped to his end, having lost his Caribbean empire to revolutionary fury and never regaining the easy fortune he once brandished. Tony Spilotro, furious at being overshadowed, discovered that a gangster's arrogance can lead to an enraged response from above. Even Carlo Gambino, though he died peacefully, set in motion the seeds that would one day tear apart his beloved family in violent struggles over who would rule next. Their stories now rest in the annals of organized crime history, bridging a time of prohibition shootouts, scandalous political associations, and the direct involvement of illegitimate gambling enterprises. Each boss cultivated distinct methods. Sam's daring infiltration of African-American rackets, Lansky's cunning casino empire, Tony's bloody intimidation in Vegas, Carlo's near-invisible manipulation from behind closed doors. In the end, all roads lead to the unwavering pursuit of money and authority. Their reigns confirmed that ambition, cunning, and the willingness to eliminate allies or rivals shapes who seizes the top rung in the hierarchy of infamous syndicates. They studied ways to avoid jail time and circumvent year after year of law enforcement crackdowns, but the moral, if there is one, is that every empire, criminal or otherwise, eventually cracks, undone by a new generation's ambitions or by the unstoppable flow of historical change. Stories like these, summing up Chicago shootouts, Cuban casinos, clandestine deals in New York, and an assassin's tensions in Las Vegas, remain a staple of true crime culture. People wonder how civilized society allowed these crime families to thrive for so long. Across the years, the names change: Capone, Torrio, Giancana, Accardo, Lansky, Siegel, Spilotro, Rosenthal, Gambino, Anastasia, Genovese, Lucchese, Bonanno, Colombo. But the pattern persists. A battle for territory, for control, for a seat at the commission. The unstoppable allure of big money overshadowed every moral boundary, turning neighborhoods into war zones or hush zones where silence was enforced by threat of death. Yet the public's appetite for gangster legends never diminishes, perhaps because in these forbidding tales we see inversions of normal life. The Mafia stands as a secret mirror to society's darkest urges. They create alternative systems of loyalty, coded language, hush money, and brutal vendettas. Even in the hearts of everyday families, neighbors suspect that the low-key gentleman reading the newspaper on the stoop might be a powerful mob underboss. Meanwhile, newspapers flash headlines about infiltration in unions, allegations of rigged elections, or suspicious suicides. Politicians vow to clean up the city, but often fall into bribery or intimidation themselves. The story's real potency lies in these hidden margins. A tale of everyday people who, either by fear, by greed, or by admiration, get entangled with the notorious kingpins that run the block. The lines between good and evil become muddled when local residents see gangsters provide free groceries at Christmas or sponsor neighborhood events, even as they gun down perceived traitors in broad daylight. Society becomes an uneasy tapestry of violence and communal bonding. It's a world where an outward show of piety, such as Sam Giancana's routine claims that Chicago was locked up for him, can coincide with gruesome murders over the smallest challenge to personal authority. What unifies Sam Giancana, Meyer Lansky, Tony Spilotro, and Carlo Gambino is the unwavering quest for total control. Their tactics differed. Sam might have threatened a policeman's family, while Lansky whispered in the ear of a senator. Tony bullied every city gangster who refused a tax, while Carlo reinforced his territory through family ties. The results, though, were the same. Millions amassed, institutions corrupted, entire neighborhoods cowered or remained silent. This pattern is the essence of organized crime, a chain of cause and effect that turns men of questionable ethics into clandestine empires that overshadow governments. All in pursuit of intangible power, soon undone by internal betrayals or unstoppable shifts in the legal climate. When we look back on these real mafia stories, we see a reflection of human nature, ambition, greed, loyalty, treachery, and the age-old game of brinkmanship. Each of these men believed they had found the system's cheat code, forging alliances or acting quickly with lethal force, and for a while they were unstoppable. But as these dark history chapters confirm, all it takes is a single bullet in a barbershop or a well-prepared basement ambush to end the vaulted legacy of even the greatest boss. For some, the final blow might come from a trusted friend or by the reaper's quiet arrival in old age. For others, it arrives through a swirl of legal trouble or by revolutionaries who seize entire nations. Nevertheless, the memories endure in our collective imagination. Haunting imagery of big-shouldered men in fedoras stepping out of tinted cars, slinging orders in coded slang, some finishing elaborate dinners before betrayal strikes, others plotting with intelligence agencies to shape the fate of entire countries. These underworld secrets keep readers returning, keep watchers addicted to the intrigue of gangster sagas. They highlight the fragility of institutions once criminals collaborate with unscrupulous leaders. They reveal how entire cities can come under the thrall of organized crime if no one dares to speak out. The next time we consider the price of free societies, perhaps we recall these underworld reigns, where the silence of the crowd was complicit or coerced. So ends the grand mosaic of four men who left an indelible mark on the dark history of America's crime families. Sam Giancana, whose suspected collaboration with the CIA remains a staple of unsolved mysteries. Meyer Lansky, the soft-spoken financial genius rumored to have hidden piles of money across the globe. Tony Spilotro, whose brutality upended the calm facade of Las Vegas, leading to his gruesome fate in a shallow Midwestern grave. Carlo Gambino, the quiet tactician who shaped a giant, infamous syndicate in New York, only for the faction's piece to unravel after his death. Their collective stories paint an unforgettable panorama of real mafia stories, reminding us how easily power can slip behind a curtain of fear. In the end, these legends persist because they represent both a cautionary tale and a dark fascination with an underground hierarchy reminiscent of medieval courts, complete with kings, knights, fools, and traitors. Despite government crackdowns, Hollywood dramatizations, and sensational headlines, we remain entranced by the question, how did they truly weave their webs of influence? Did the conspiracies indeed touch the highest levels of politics? Who, if anyone, might have spilled the final secrets on those organized crime dealings with unstoppable cunning? Some mysteries remain shrouded. Others perhaps lie scattered in redacted documents. We turn the page, uncertain whether the next revelation will solve an old puzzle or spark a new rumor. Their legacy reminds us that power, no matter how great, is always temporary. From Chicago's streets to Vegas casinos, these infamous figures shaped America's criminal underworld through ambition, violence, and cunning. But in the end, even empires built on fear must fall. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to catch our next true crime documentary. Stay safe, and we'll see you